Jimmy D and the Wolf podcast.
Sorry we're a little bit late. That's due to my lack of technical proficiency.
Well, I was trying to send you the link, and I thought there's about 10 or 12 emails in my outbox that I've been sending you that haven't gone. So I got to figure out what's going on with that. Technology, you know.
Well, technology's simple as long as you can memorize up to 15,000 passwords at one time.
Or you can be like Jimmy D, and just have one password.
One password. If anybody ever figures it out, dude, they'll be able to ruin my entire life.
Probably shouldn't say that in public.
Oh,
you need to change your passwords now.
It's all right.
All right. Well,
changes with the years.
What's going on?
The most eventful thing that's happened recently is that my dog Emma finally got that mole that I've been trying to get.
Oh, yeah, you're Emma, sweet Emma. She got the mole.
Sweet Emma got the mole. Yeah, the thing was wreaking havoc in my yard. And I learned something. This is stupid, but I thought it was interesting. I learned that they work all through the night. That moles, I always thought moles were like a daytime thing. And they're not, dude. They sleep for 4 hours, and then they're up for 4 hours just destroying your yard and looking for food. And they do that all I always thought like you can only get them during the day, but that's not the case at all. But
Emma got him.
Emma got him, yep. The mighty Emma.
Cuddle happy dog ever, but she can turn into a vicious killer.
She's like aggressively affectionate.
I got a picture of her. I got a video of her when I was there, and I'm going to put it in the video. Try to put it in the video. We haven't been posting our videos on our YouTube channel, and that's my bad because we need just some steps that I have to take, and so we're way behind in getting that caught up. So we need to get on that. Should I share the story of my sax instructor?
Oh no.
What's this?
We could talk about our custom song thing.
Okay.
I'm excited about that.
Okay, let's talk about that.
That we're doing custom song offers for events, anniversaries, weddings.
Absolutely.
To where, somebody gives us some subject matter and what kind of song that they want, then we will custom write the song, and they can kind of encapsulate that memory forever. And so I'm excited about that because I'm always looking for a challenge, and that is a challenge. It's when somebody gives you the topic and the subject matter and like some data points, and then you have to put that into art, put that into a song. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but more of a learning tool for me personally, because I've never really written that way.
Yeah, and as you know, I got the template or the framework on how to do this, not how to write songs because we've been writing songs for some time, but how to do the custom songs as a package to bless people and serve them from a mentor that I saw his presentation at DIY Musicians Conference, and he Tiamo, and he's been doing this for 15 years, and he has had a waiting list, and he charges a lot of money. The average package that he charges is over $10,000. So, and this isn't a guy who's had any hits on radio or anything like that, but he's just gotten to the point where he's so good at doing this particular niche thing, and he delivers to people, and you go to his site and it's got rave reviews. So from people that just have been so touched by how he served them and delivered a song that'll you can relive the memories for the rest of your life. So
priceless.
Yeah, it's priceless. So I mean, we're not near at that level price wise. We're still starting out. But he gave the mechanism of how you get the information, or you have the client provide the information to you and how to structure it, and the way we're going to be doing it, and the way he did it is the client does get a chance to review the lyrics before we finalize the song. And I'm excited about it. And we're going to have two options. It's going to be either the Tim Wolf side or the Jimmy D side. So whichever one you want to sing your song is, but we're going to write all the songs together. So if you're interested, we can put a link in the comments below. We have some information about that. So
yeah, I'm pumped about it, man. Of all the things that we have going on, I'm maybe most excited about that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be, and I hope that we can create memories for people, moments for people, and serve them in whatever the event is. Weddings is a pretty common use for that sort of thing, but it could even be other events like retirement, or even could be corporate
Sure.
Type of a song, or for an event, or it could be a number of things. So.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what people do with it too, because, I would imagine that, like, for a wedding, maybe the groom wants to sing it to the bride and that kind of thing. So that'll be fun on our end.
Right.
Key to put it in and structure and kind of play into people's strengths or whatever.
Yes, and one thing we're offering that Tiamo doesn't offer is that since you're a guitar instructor and we have anyonecanlearnguitar.com, you are going to be offering them a personalized video on how to play the song, so they can play it for their loved one if they would so choose. If they have some, hopefully it won't make the chords too complex, so that someone with rudimentary skills on the guitar could play them, could play the song. So anyway, it's exciting. It's a new venture. We'll see.
We didn't think about that. Jazz songs should be extra. If there's more than 7 chords in the song, we should charge them like twice as And if the song has any chords that are numbered higher than the number 7, like if it has a 9 chord or an 11 chord or 13 chord, it's cool again. Paid complexity of changes. Wouldn't that be great?
Most likely, I mean, if it's the way the real world works, the more the chords, the less you get paid.
Exactly right. That's the old jazz musician joke, man. The difference between a rock guitar player and a jazz guitar player is a rock player plays 3 chords for 10,000 people, and a jazz guitar player plays 10,000 chords for 3 people. It's so true.
And well, jazz and classical have been art forms that are highly evolved, highly skilled requirements to play them at a high level. And jazz has not been around as long as classical and Baroque and all the different traditions that go way back, European traditions. But both of them have been on a low ebb. I mean, jazz records CDs have fallen off a cliff, and classical has had orchestras are in hard times. I mean, I've seen a lot of articles where orchestras are striking because they're used to. I mean, if you're a tenured player, traditionally 10 years ago, if you're a tenured player in a major orchestra, you're making 6 figures, and you're only working probably 9 months out of the year because they have off seasons, the summer. I mean, it's a good gig, but as there was a study that was done 10 years ago. Well, this study came out in 2017, so it would have been about 2007. The highest demographic attending classical concerts was age 45 to 64, whatever the demarcation is. I think 64 or 65. And 10 years later, in 2017, the demographic that was the highest of the percent of the people going to see was 65 to 74. So what that means is that no new fans are coming in, and the existing fans are getting older, and it's anyone can figure out that you're not going to have any fans because they're all going to die.
Right. I worry about that with the blues too, man. I don't think the blues is quite to where maybe jazz or classical are, but I worry about it because it's like the blues festivals, the crowds aren't staying the same age. The crowds are just getting older.
And well, even companies like Harley Davidson has that issue. Most of their customers are baby boomers, you know. And I haven't. Well, I have a Harley, but their demographic, and I've read articles, business articles, are that the Harley Davidson is they're worried about, because if they can't capture a younger generation, eventually they're going to fade away as well. So anyway, but here's the good news, the positive news about classical. At least this was an article. In fact, I did a YouTube video on this because I'd done a video last year, classical music is dying, because of that statistic that I just shared. And a lot of orchestras, I mean, you need over 100, if my understanding is correct, you need a full-fledged orchestra has like 100 musicians in it. And that's a big budget if you're paying everybody six figures.
Yes.
There's a lot more that goes into it. And then you have to have the conductor and you have to do the promotion. But if people are less and less going to events, how are you going to fund that? And a lot of the major orchestras have had financial difficulties. I remember when I lived in South Dakota, the one in the Twin Cities had been on strike for like 2 years because the players said, we're professional players and we deserve to get that salary we've always been getting. And the orchestra said, we don't have the money.
Right.
So, one way is to reduce the number of players on the orchestra, down to a core number. And then when you do those pieces that need all the players, you can have them as contract come in and you save some money that way. But these are Band-Aids, so to speak. But the point is, streaming numbers have exploded for classical music since 2017. And in the age demographic of millennials has just gone up like 300%. And even in COVID times, it's exploded even more.
Wow.
So there's an incredibly resurgence in the consumption, use the term consumption, of classical music on streaming. Now, will that go over towards attending concerts? I mean, it's natural progression, perhaps. But so one avenue, I mean, I personally feel that maybe classical needs to get rid of the staid. This is my 1/2 cent opinion. Not even 2 cents, 1/2 cent. Maybe classical should, and maybe they're doing this, should consider getting rid of the staid, everybody's dressed in like even a tux, get the guy come out in Adidas, the conductor come out maybe in an Adidas tracksuit or something, Modernize the look, right? I mean, and one avenue.
Uniform.
What's that?
The Jersey Mafia uniform, those guys.
Yeah.
Those got like tracksuits.
Or whatever, casual, to appeal to a younger demographic. But one on board is where a lot of millennials and whatnot are interested in music is the classical music is soundtrack for movies. Even today, movies are all typically, they will have an orchestra involved in the soundtrack. I mean, that's still a huge selling point for orchestras. And if they can take that and market that and, make that in their repertoire rather than playing Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, which are great conductors, but
most orchestras are just cover bands. They're just playing the old stuff.
Yeah. Well,
it's
so
funny to think, man, how many cues there actually are, as you know, through the course of a television show. We're not even aware of how many cues go on. I mean, there's people that do that for a living that get hundreds of cues through the course of a month, just working with one producer, Absolutely. And it's so easy to do it. Now, most of those are done with
orchestra in a box.
Yeah.
You know, on the computer where there's samples that have been recorded by some musician somewhere, and then it's incorporated, and you a lot of those are made if it's just a cue, but a movie has a much bigger budget, and they will typically use a real orchestra. And I remember, I think I've told this story before, but when I went to Ronan Murphy's boot camp, we're producing boot camp in 2013 in Santa Monica. He had his friend John Dodd, anyway, this gentleman is what he does. He records and mixes soundtracks for movies, and he had just done. This was 2013, and a big Leonardo DiCaprio movie had just came out, or one of the big stars. Well, it was a summer blockbuster in 2013. I'll have to look it up and put it in the comments, but it was a big movie. Might have been Inception, actually. Did Inception come out in 2013?
That was a great movie.
DiCaprio was in that, right?
Yeah, that was an incredible film.
I think it was Inception, and it had just come out. I mean, we had this event in August, so the movie had come out, and he'd been working on it. And his main lecture was about backing up your stuff. It wasn't about mixing. He said, when you have digital drives, back it up. And he said, if it isn't in 3 places, it doesn't exist. And he explained that to record the soundtrack for this movie was an orchestra of 100, whatever, full orchestra. And they recorded it at Abbey Road Studios in London. And he had 42 mics and recorded all of that. And he said he backed everything up immediately. He said, and can you imagine? He gets back to LA and goes to mix it, and he had forgotten a bag or lost something had happened, and he'd lost the tracks. And he calls up the producer of the movie and said, we need to go back to Abbey Road and bring the orchestra back and do that one song, because that one track, his crew's over, man. Absolutely over. So backing up, that was he was obsessed with backing up.
That happens on every level. I remember about 7 years ago that Kirk Hammett, the guitarist for Metallica, lost his iPhone with all the riffs that was like ground level. My understanding is that all the Metallica songs start with the riff, and that he had like all this material on his iPhone and lost it in travel, and it set the whole Metallica album back like a year or something because they couldn't move forward. So that happens on every level, man.
Yeah, I heard like 500. There were like 500 riff ideas on his phone. There's a number that I had heard. Huge loss, So backing stuff up is so important. And if it doesn't exist in 3 places, was his mantra. And he even said that he was so obsessed with it, he'd go through a fast food drive up and he'd ask the person, have you backed up your data today? You can imagine the average minimum wage person. I don't have any idea. I'm just banning the window.
Yeah, he was emotionally scarred from that experience.
So, yeah, because, and then he started the presentation where it's not about if your hard drive is going to fail, it's when.
Yeah.
Now, this was before solid states. 2013 solid state SSDs weren't that prominent, but even there's still electronics in there, transistors and whatnot. And even though it's not a rotating disk, it still will probably eventually fail. So even if you have solid state and you think I've solved that problem, well, not 100%, I would think. I have some solid state drives. My computer has a solid state in it. There's no spinning disk, just no moving parts, but it still has electronics that fail over time. So.
What I've been about a lot lately is speaking of backing things up and kind of backtrack a little bit. Is since COVID, so many musicians have had to turned to the live streaming platform just to keep the lights on. You know, I did tons of Facebook Lives. I think like 3 months in a row, I went live every night or something crazy like that. And what I wonder is, at what point does that catch up to itself as far as licensing? Because there's all these platforms, these Facebook groups where everybody's doing covers and they're getting paid for it. The rights affiliate organizations, BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, they haven't figured out how to monetize that yet. So I'm curious as to where all that stands. What's going to happen with all that? Are they going to go back and look at people that were live streaming playing covers and expect some kind of BMI ASCAP payment?
Yeah, it's a complex issue, and I don't know. It is a valid one.
Well, it's something nobody's coming. Nobody predicted that all these artists were going to, you know, their only revenue stream would be going Facebook Live or Instagram or whatever. And so few people can do a whole set of original music. I just wonder what's going to happen with that.
Very good question. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. There's streaming music platforms cropping up every day. There's this Versus, which is the rap, more on the rap or R&B side of content or battles. I haven't seen it yet, but that, have you heard of that? That's
No.
It's on Apple. Apple, I guess it's a big deal. That a lot of people are watching. Millions of people are watching it. They have these battles. They had Brandy and Monica was on there last. Some R&B folks, and I don't know how the battle, but it's a good-natured battle, I guess, is what they do. And I do need to catch it, but that's a whole new platform that just popped up. And I know Apple Music, Apple is tied to it, and I don't recall. There's more. There's other partners. These technology companies are cooperating. And then another big one is Amazon, which is wanting to be a big streaming player. And of course, they have so much money. I mean, Jeff Bezos now is worth $200 billion, richest man in the world. And
that every time I get bummed out, that's what I tell myself, is that I'm closer to being a millionaire than Jeff Bezos is.
Well, okay, you can look at it that way, I guess. Yeah, I saw an article the other day that listed because Elon Musk just became worth $100 billion, and it listed. I think there are. I think it's Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, because he's it twice. You know, you have to say his name twice because he's worth $200 billion. So, right. Yeah, I mean, and he had a near-death experience, which we've talked about. I mean, in 2008 or 9, when he said we're going to make the Prime thing, everybody thought he was crazy, and he could have failed. You know, definitely could have
went all in.
Went all
That's
in.
what it takes.
And found a way to make it work by having warehouses all over the country so that they wouldn't have to airship anything. You know, because before that, if you wanted 2-day delivery, you had to pay per shipment, and I think it was $7 per shipment. And if you just ordered 10 items, you broke even, because then it was $70 for the Prime, where it was free no matter how many you ordered. And his underlings, his vice presidents, thought that they were going to go bankrupt because if people ordered unlimited, they couldn't afford it. And he said, well, the only time we lose is if we have to airship it. So we have to make sure that we don't have to airship hardly anything. And you know, logistics, they worked their ass off to get there. But forgive my bad word.
now like now they're like besting the postal service.
Yeah, poor postal services. Oh, can I if I can make a radical shift, we have enough time. Do I have enough time? This is something that was in the Times, and we just had on August 18th, we had the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. This is an amazing story. It's unrelated to what we were talking about, except you said post office. The post office was integral to this. You want to hear it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So there was a lot of fight against it because the reasons that people didn't want it, there were racist forces that didn't want the women to vote. They want the vote extended to black women. A lot of southern states had rejected it, considered it a federally imposed racial inequality edict. Corporations were convinced that women would be bad for their bottom lines because women would want to get rid of child labor. I mean, it's funny to think about it now, but child labor wasn't illegal. And liquor interests thought they'd push for stronger enforcement of prohibition. Railroads feared women might curb their influence peddling efforts, and state legislators. Basically, all the things that were bad now we look back on. I mean, and so there was a huge forces against it. And Tennessee, which is my current home state now, had a major impact on it. And it came down to the last state that had to ratify it, and that was Tennessee. Most of the southern states have rejected it, and there were other states on the other side, and the deciding factor was Tennessee. And there was this man, Harry T. Byrne, was 24 years old, freshman delegate. He cast the deciding vote. Tennessee was the last state needed to propel the 19th Amendment into the Constitution. And he was booed and he was hissed. The commotion in the chamber grew so heated that the governor ordered the sergeant at arms to protect him. He managed to escape, and violence was threatened. But that wasn't all. So immediately, the opponents tried to discredit the legitimacy of the ratification by accusing him of taking a bribe, and manufactured witnesses, an affidavit threatening to publish the smear unless he recanted his aye vote, but he stood firm. Only 24 years old. Can you imagine the pressure this man was under, this young man? Anti-suffrage forces of the legislature made parliamentary maneuvers, and they posed 3 days of reconsideration, and they wanted to persuade a couple of delegates, and so then they took it there was torchlit protest rallies around the state, fueled by populist and racist language. I mean, it kind of sounds like what we're going through in 2020, a little bit. And there were some other things that happened there trying to fight with it, but finally it held firm, and they didn't do a reconsideration vote. So now it worked to the courts. So they took it to the courts. They took it all the way to the Supreme Court. They tried to restrain the Secretary of State, whose name was Bainbridge Colby, from accepting Tennessee's certification. Then they took their petition to the District of Columbia Court of Appeals, and they finally took it to Supreme Court. And there was, it had to be made by a certain date. If you couldn't make the official proclamation before the Court of Appeals took up the injunction plea in the morning. No, sorry, it didn't make it to the Supreme Court. It was just District of Columbia Court of Appeals. But if they could get it signed into law before they took it up, that would negate, I don't know the actual mechanics of how it worked, but there was a race against time. So there's a train chugging on its way to Washington, D.C. This is being mailed. And as soon as it arrived, the mail train was expected to arrive in Washington in the early morning of August 26th. Postal Service headquarters ordered that no matter the time, the envelope should be rushed to the State Department. Employees of the department waited through the night. It arrived at 3 a.m. and it was signed, the proclamation of the 19th Amendment, in his own home with only 8 as witness. No suffragists were in attendance. There were no photos. The fight was over. So, the post office had a major deal. They rushed that to it, and what could have happened in the Court of Appeals, I wasn't sure, but they had to get this done. Again, I'm not sure the technical aspects of it, but there was a deadline. They had to get it done. Apparently, the Court of Appeals was going to take it up that day, but if they could get this signed before, the appeal would be ended. Apparently, is my understanding of the mechanics of it. So there still was attempts by Tennessee to take back their ratification, and they were successful in doing that. And there were some maneuverings taken by the speaker who tied the bill to per diem rates so that they individually would make more money. And they did pass a bill that retracted their ratification, but it was too late because it was already federal law.
Wow. One vote.
One vote.
Harry T. Burns?
Harry T. Burns. I've never heard of that name before. I'm going to research that name, but we've had tumultuous times before. I've never heard the story of how difficult it was to get that passed. Now we just take it for granted. Women deserve the right to vote. 100 years.
Well, now, yeah, of course. Now it's like, duh, of course they do. But then one vote. One vote in one state of Tennessee.
Harry T. Burns, he's a hero, man. That guy's a hero.
He needs a song.
There you go. Yeah, we can write a song about him. Yeah.
He deserves.
Suffragist, our history probably is filled with stories just like that.
Sure. Skin of your teeth kind of thing.
Yeah.
Changes the complexion of our entire country.
Yeah.
Never think that one person can't change the world, because they absolutely can. Look at that guy. I never heard him in my life, but he had a profound impact on our country.
Yeah. So Harry T. Burns, he's a hero. 24 years old, and everybody screaming at him and even threatening violence. So there wasn't any. The article didn't mention that there was any actual violence. Today in our country, people are being killed, people are being shot, people are confronting protesters or counter protesters, and one side's taking up arms against the other side, and it's pretty bad right now.
It's sad. It's heart wrenching.
Yeah, we need to be a nation. I hope that in some way after this election is over, there can be steps to try to unite our country. Yeah. Whoever wins. We are one country, not two. That's my opinion.
Me too. It's insane the way people are acting. But it's one of those times that I'm glad to be where I'm at. I'm glad I'm in little old Madison, Indiana, and that we are kind of behind the times, because we're not faced with that level of divisiveness that a lot of the cities are.
Right. Nashville's a big city. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well, it's still, it's still essentially the same climate here as it has been. Interpersonal relationships haven't changed much. It's just the same as it's been my entire life. It's not as cut and dry. Not as much opposition here. People are still keeping the gloves on, is what I mean to say. But we're behind the times, and sometimes that's a curse, and sometimes that's a blessing. Right now, it's a blessing, because we're still Mayberry for the most part.
Well,
it's concerning, and I don't want to get too much into it, but it's concerning as to what the reaction is going to be in November, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah. I've thought a lot about that, prayed a lot about that myself, and which either way, right now, both sides, there are factions in both sides that have taken up arms, and yeah, it's concerning. If you read articles about what it looks like from afar, I've read a few articles about what people are commenting on of what's happening in our country, and they're like aghast as to, we're viewed as the beacon on the hill, and it looks like we're having a big civil war. Well, we had a civil war before, and I know there's a lot of people who have said it's going to take a civil war to reunite us, and I hate to see that.
I sure hope not.
Yeah, me too.
But we're 1-0. If it comes right to it.
What else you got? I got my toy tractor that I pedaled on when I was a kid. One of those little toy tractors.
Oh, Emma has.
Oh, there's Emma. Emma, make your appearance. Oh, there's the
aggressively affected.
The mole killer. Oh, Emma's the best.
Killer.
Anyway, got this little toy tractor that I pedaled on, played on when I was a kid, and my nephews pedaled on it when they came to the farm. And it had been in the shed and was kind of rusted, and I found a guy to repair it. I've heard that those tractors are worth money, but not as much as I thought. And it's going to cost about double what it's worth on the market. But I told the guy to ask the guy to fix it anyway.
One on your computer?
What's that?
The tractor on your computer?
No. It's one that I can actually sit on. It's not this. You mean this? You mean this?
Yeah. Sorry.
I was never small enough to be able to pedal that.
Emma distracted me.
No, it's actual, an actual toy tractor. I don't know if they still make them, but kids get on them, and it has a pedal and you can turn it. It's like a tricycle, but it's shaped it's a tricycle in a tractor form.
It's like the version of a big wheel.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. And so
a big wheel, you pedal the actual wheel, right? There's no chain involved. This had a chain that pedals. It was like a bicycle with a bicycle chain that drove the rear wheels, and you would pedal it, and had a steering wheel, and so I can't wait to get it back. He said that he's finishing up. He's been working on it for a while, but he had a lot of repairs. He sent me some in-process photos, and pretty excited. I've already figured out where I'm going to put it.
Where's he at? The guy
he's south of me about 2 hours. And going there was a trip because I haven't spent a lot of time exploring Tennessee, and it was out in the country. I mean, I had to even go through a park or a state park, national park, whatever, and it was really a roundabout way to get there. And the name of the road he lives on is his last name, and he said my whole family used to live here. I mean, this is like probably legit rural Tennessee. I found him on Facebook.
Such a beautiful state, man.
Oh, it was gorgeous. The ride was gorgeous. Yeah. So I need to get out more and explore. I've only been living here. It'll be 3 years in October, and I need to explore and see more of this. Other than the city of Nashville. So, all right. Well, we're at 40 minutes, so I think we can. Unless you got something else you want to talk about, my friend.
Just tell everybody be kind to each other.
That's what I would agree with that. All right. We're going to be doing these podcasts now every Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
That's right.
And if that schedule varies from that, we will notify you. We're going to be more fixed, stick to a schedule in a better way than we have in the past. I think
Right.
that's important.
We tried our absolute hardest to do them every Monday forever, and then we figured out that Monday is literally the hardest day is to possibly do it.
Yeah. So we moved it to Wednesdays, and thank you. We've got 2 people watching right now. Hopefully there'll be more watching on the replays, and thanks so much. Jimmy D and the Wolf, playing through the changes of life. See you next time.
See you, buddy.
Yeah.